This is the Friday's edition of the Signature Morning, and I'm Charles. Hope you're good out there, wherever you're watching us from. Many thanks for joining us. We are on SLTV channels 265. All right, we're hoping to get into other platforms as quickly as possible. We're also live on YouTube 247. All our content are broadcast there live. So in case you missed out on any of the content, you could always get with us on the YouTube platform. Better still, you can also do that on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and all other social media platforms. All right. So for the next 25 minutes or so, we'll talk about human rights and its significance in building a nation. I don't know if you ever think that human rights is important in building a nation. Well, you might be stunned at the importance, or if you like, little importance that is placed on human rights. And that's part of the reasons why you never hear in campaigns where politicians take their time to campaign on the issues of human rights to, drive their own cause. And then do the citizens even know about the fact that human rights is important, especially for politicians who are coming on board with the things we've seen across boards, governors chasing journalists, presidents, apparently using fat powers, to do things. You would think that really human rights have been suspended. But again, let's see if we can expand on that with a guest we have today, Ogochukwu Onuoha Onuoha. He's a human rights crusader, educationist, and research historian. Good to have you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Right. How important really is human rights in nation building and across board? I mean, if you look at campaigns by a political party, you hardly see human rights as their focal point of driving their campaign. Why is that in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. You just talked about how important human rights are. And I would like to trace the origin of human rights to the British Bill of Rights, which today is more popularly known as the Magna Carta of 1215, and later on it became law in 1225. That was under King John of Britain. But this got crystallized as an aftermath of the Second World War, when on December the 10th, 1948, the countries of the world which survived that war met in France, in Paris, France, after the establishment of the United Nations 3 years earlier, and then signed a declaration which today is popularly known as the UDHR, or Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now that declaration said human rights are inalienable. That's how important it is. The word inalienable means that which cannot be separated or taken away from. So it is an integral part of being a human being. Now the UDHR spelled out 30 different kinds of rights, which they form the basis of the fundamental human rights that are enshrined in the constitutions of all democratically elected governments around the world.
Right. You just give us a history of human rights and where it started from. Yes. But then, how important is it today, and why do you think that some of our politicians don't even care about it?
I think human rights are still very important, but then the importance appears to be dwindling, and this is largely because of a lack of education on human rights related issues. Many people around the world, especially in developing countries like Nigeria, are not educated. They do not understand what human rights are, because you see, rights have to be claimed. Rights have to be claimed and demanded. If you do not claim, demand, or protect yours, others will violate your rights. So the fact that even our politicians today do not understand the rights, their own rights and those of others, is a part of the reason why it will appear that human rights are no longer as important as they used to be in the past. So the average citizen of Nigeria, for instance, is assailed by poverty. So most of the times, if their rights are violated, being human, there are things someone does to you which you realize without a formal knowledge of human rights, which you realize that, come on, this is not the way a person ought to be treated. But because what is uppermost in your mind all the time is the survival, how to survive. So most Nigerians actually die, allow their rights to die rather than defend it, because they don't have the means. They don't know how to go about protecting their rights. So human rights are still very important, but there is an acute lack of education concerning rights issues in Nigeria, even among the elites.
So do you really need monies to defend your right?
Yes, you do.
How so?
Good. Now, to be able to defend your rights, in the first place, you need knowledge. You need to know what the rights are, and then you need the means with which to defend your rights. For instance, if someone's human rights have been violated, in the case of Nigeria, for instance, you can approach a legal officer, that is a legal practitioner, if you have the means of hiring his service. Otherwise, you can approach a magistrate court, you understand, and report the issue, and then request that the offender be invited to the court. Now, the ordinary person in Nigeria, not many people are aware that they can actually appear in court without a lawyer. Do you understand that? They can actually appear in court. They can apply to a court to say, this man or this woman did this to me, and I want the law to take a look to it, without having to hire a lawyer. Now, it requires thorough human rights education for us to have citizens who can do that.
What are specifically these rights for humans?
Good. Now, these rights are discussed in Chapter 4 of Nigeria's Constitution, 1999, as amended, from sections 33 to section 46 are the fundamental human rights. The first one, section 33, is on the right to life. It says that life is sacrosanct, that no one has the right to take the life of another. A citizen's life can only be taken on the order of a law court, after which that citizen has been found guilty of a criminal offense. That is what section 33 states. That is, no one is empowered to go out there and then take the life of any other person. So the first fundamental human right is the right to life. We all have the right to exist. That is why we are not animals. I mean, a hunter could go into the forest and kill an animal, kill a game, but you don't kill human beings in that manner, because we have rights, and these rights are inalienable. Then apart from the section 33 of the Constitution, there is the section 34, which is right to dignity of human persons. The human being is created in the image of the Almighty Father. And so he deserves honor, he deserves respect, he deserves to be dignified in whatever he does, and other people should accord this dignity to him. Now, this section of the Constitution outlaws torture of any kind, or the ill treatment of any other person. So no one may see you on the road and say, why are you dressed in this, and then tear your clothes. That would be violating your dignity as a person. So that is section 34 of the Nigerian Constitution. Then section 35 is on the right to personal liberty. What does this imply? It implies that you are free, you have your free. That's what liberty means. You are free to move about. You are free to air your views on an issue. You are free to have an opinion. You are free not to be restrained or detained at any place against your will. This is liberty. Now, away from that, that's section 35. There is section 36, which is on fair hearing. Fair hearing. There is a dispute. In our law, there is what is called an ex parte injunction. You approach a court and lodge a complaint, and the court issues an injunction saying this should not happen. But it is usually temporary. That piece of land belongs to me. The government has confiscated it. The government claims there is a public project for which that land is needed, but the government didn't get a proper authorization from me. Please, court, suspend the project. And the court suspends this while waiting to hear from the government. Good. Now, the court issues an ex parte injunction only in rare cases. But after the injunction has been issued, the second party still has to be invited so that his or her own view on the matter will be taken by the court. So a law court, for instance, and other authorities and individuals are not expected to draw a conclusion based on testimonies or evidence presented by one party to a dispute. That is why, in the case of our own laws, under Section 36, if there is a legal issue, one brings a complaint, and then the second party is invited to a law court. It is only after both parties have been heard from that the court can go on to make a ruling. That is what fair hearing is all about. And then it is satisfied, the court is satisfied that both parties have been allowed to present their own points of views on the issue, and that the ruling done based on those points of view is accepted by both parties.
Right.
That is fair hearing.
Are there any time in any nation's history, we're talking about Nigeria, so let's just focus on Nigeria. Are there any times where it is very necessary to suspend human rights because of national unity?
Yes, human rights can be suspended in certain circumstances. For instance, if for the safety of the community, an area has to be quarantined because there is an outbreak of epidemic, then the freedom of movement, the right to personal liberty of the people involved is restricted. Now, if an individual Nigerian is found to be veering towards lunatism and requires to be in a lunatic asylum, the person's right to freedom of movement, freedom to personal liberty is suspended. Now, during periods of national emergency, like a civil war, for instance, citizens who are not members of the regular army are usually forced, they are conscripted into the army to fight for the unity of the country. Most of them might prefer some other engagements if they were to have their way. So their right to personal liberty is restricted at such moments. And then in periods of national emergency, like an insurrection, the government might place a curfew extending from one period to another, and the freedom of movement is restricted. Individuals are not allowed to move around the country, and this also impacts on their right to personal liberty. So human rights are not absolute. There are circumstances when it has to be restricted. For instance, a sick person's freedom of movement is restricted because he has to be in a hospital compulsorily to get treated, and also to avoid him spreading the disease to others if it is a contagious illness.
Do you think that can be abused?
Yes, it can be abused sometimes. For instance, currently many Nigerians are lamenting over the state of emergency declared in Rivers State by President Tinubu. Many Nigerians are questioning the rationale. Was there such a breakdown of law and order in Rivers State that warranted the declaration of a state of emergency? So many Nigerians see this as an abuse. Then, very often in Nigeria, police officers pick people along the road. They say someone is a vagrant, but the law provides that if there is no state of emergency, there is no time around the clock when a Nigerian citizen is not allowed to move about, provided that your movement does not take you to a private property without the authorization of the owner. Individuals can make use of the road, which is a public property, make use of public parks at any time. Now, because the police is fond of extracting money from the citizens, sometimes people are picked on the road and detained in the police station. This is a violation of the freedom of movement and then right to personal liberty, and sometimes money is extorted from such. That is a kind of abuse of human rights.
So, you spoke about education, information around your human right, because if you do not even know your human rights, you can't even enforce it. You can't even, try to gain from it. But we've seen these rights violated severally. Even as common as even rights to life. You see people die every day. Look at what's going on in Jos, what's going on in Borno, Benue. I mean, how do people of that standing, enforce their rights to life. Do you think that they can, at least those who are their siblings, who are their neighbors, who have lost them, do you think they can enforce their rights, and how should they go about it?
Yes, they can enforce their rights, but with the proviso that they know who the offender is. That is the delicate issue now. To enforce your rights, you have to know who is the violator of your rights.
No, but again, the federal government's job is
Yes.
to protect
Yes.
life and
Yes.
property. That's their primary duty,
Yes,
both
that's-
states and federal, and
Yes.
even the local government.
Yes.
And so if I lose somebody due to insecurity, I should be looking at holding the government account.
Yes, that is true. But we haven't seen Nigerians or groups of Nigerians suing the government to court over what is happening around the country. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So you see, the court cannot step in until somebody brings a
The
complaint.
case.
Good. So someone has to go to court and say, my right was violated, this or that relation of mine was killed under this circumstance, and the government is sworn to protect the lives of Nigerians. The government has failed on its duty. I want the court to award these damages to me or to that other person for the losses suffered, and then to get the government to do its duties. We haven't seen Nigerians going to court to challenge what is happening.
Do you think part of the reasons why this thing keeps happening, that the government haven't really received this type of suit against them?
Yes, I think so, but I think also that the other reason is because of the comatose judicial system that we have in the country. Many Nigerians no longer believe in the country. We no longer believe that we will get justice if we go to the courts. I mean, the courts are literally manipulated by the government. So I guess that might be a part of the reason why many Nigerians are reluctant challenging the federal government. For instance, the other day it was on news that youths of Igbo extraction are reluctant joining the Nigerian army. But this is largely because of the risk involved. There are stories that, though they have not been confirmed, are likely to be true, going by the fact that such events do happen in Nigeria, that officers of certain ethnic groups are drafted to violent areas primarily to get killed, and many of them died. After all, a soldier has sworn to die, and then no one can say why did this or that other person die. And so this might be a part of the reason. So I think the federal government should really revamp itself and then get to understand what its duties are and begin to perform them.
If you say that the courts are in comatose, and then it does look like the common man is left on his own.
We are told the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But in Nigeria, the common man really has no more hope left. I worked with a human rights organization for many years, HRVC, it's called Human Rights Volunteer Corps, after which I established the Human Rights Heralds. And then I was involved in going to the police station to make sure that accused persons were taken on bail without their paying money, which is what the law provides. And then I've also had cases that took me to court, and then I realized that the members of the bench, that's the judges and the magistrates, are interested in a case only when no prominent Nigerian is involved. If a prominent Nigerian is involved and you are a claimant in the court, you do not expect justice. The case will be skewed in such a way as not to offend that noble or elite Nigerian. So it is a grave issue that it's sad to say Nigeria has not really started addressing.
Wow. So what happens? I mean, for you and maybe for the things that you have done, if we say our judiciary hasn't really lived up to expectation, what happens? I mean, it does look like the common man is left on his own to suffer.
And that is why there is such an increase in jungle justice.
Mm-hmm.
Good. People now resort to taking revenge because of the realization that it is an interminable or endless process going to court. At the end, you will spend money, spend time, and the justice you look out for, you will not obtain. So we see kidnapping, we see hired assassinations here and there because individuals now try to settle their differences on their own rather than resort to litigation.
So, do you think there's any role that the traditional institutions can play in helping promote, human rights?
Yes, traditional institutions can do a lot. Although, unfortunately, the traditional institutions themselves are also collapsing. They are no longer what they used to be in the past. In the past, we had a communal living, taking Igbo land as an example. We had gods that the people were not only afraid of, but respected. In those days, if someone, an Igbo man, committed an offense and he was threatened with going to the Ogochukwu shrine to take an oath, the person will say the truth because Ogochukwu will strike the person with smallpox
immediately,
and the person will die. If it were Amadioha will strike the person down with thunder, and these things were happening. And so we respected one another's rights in those days because the gods were a strong judicial system that nobody could manipulate. But it is no longer what it used to be nowadays. In fact, what we used to call our customs, our traditions, no longer exist. They have all been eroded by westernization. And westernization has brought us nothing but take us back to the Stone Age. So we talk about Christian churches everywhere nowadays, and instead of promoting peace and promoting respect for human rights, we hear of pastors slaughtering people inside their churches for rituals and impregnating members of their churches. And then these are the people we are to emulate, the people who are to take us to God Almighty in heaven. So it is really a ridiculous situation and at the same time saddening.
Wow, a good point that you have put it there. Do you also think that religious leaders also have a role to play beyond the religious leaders? And now you spoke about the traditional institutions helping to promote that. It's a lot better, in the past than now. I also understand that because it was instant, because the judgment by the traditional institutions at that time was instant.
Yeah.
If you're asked, did you do this? And you say you didn't do it, or if you lie against, the questions, or maybe if you lie against the gods at the time, you are stricken immediately.
Yeah.
Do you think the immediacy of a judgment is also one that helped with the traditional institutions at that time, and compare it with what we have today, where we have issues, adjournments for years,
Yes.
before we reach a particular conclusion? Do you think that is also a reason why most people don't believe in the court anymore?
It is true. I mean, they say justice denied, justice delayed is a justice denied. If one has to wait endlessly to get justice, and then over time the delay begins to impact the person's means of livelihood, most litigants will abandon the case and then go back to their businesses. Now, you talked about religious leaders vis-a-vis our traditional society. I think our religious leaders, the bishops, the reverend gentlemen, the clergy, should become like the Ozo in our traditional society. The Ozo was a highly placed individual. Anybody who attained that rank was regarded as sacrosanct. They didn't lie. They were embodiments of truth. So if there was a dispute, the Ozo man would take a look at the issue and then say, this is what happened. You were wrong, you were right. I think our religious leaders, members of the clergy, should become simple. In the first place, to be a clergy is not a profession. It's a service. Members of the clergy should have their own profession that earn them a living and be contributing to the church. They should stop depending on offertory made by ordinary members of the public to buy cars for themselves, build houses for themselves, and live ostentatious lives. They should become simple. In that way, they will renew the respect that the congregation already naturally should have for them. When they become simple, it will not be so difficult to convince the people that they are taking us to heaven. But the way many of them live nowadays cast doubts over whether there is actually a place like heaven that they intend to go, let alone taking other people there. So they should lead a simple life, and then a life based on truth. That way, they will reignite the people's love and honor for them.
How do you think the National Human Rights Commission and the civil society organization can work collaboratively in order to enhance the promotion of human rights?
I haven't seen the National Human Rights Commission doing anything.
Really?
I mean, on the days when we marked the Universal Human Rights Declaration, the National Human Rights Commission will be on news, and after that it is over. They do not do anything day to day to tackle human rights issues. If you take a case to them, they hardly react.
Hardly?
Yeah, there are individually owned human rights organizations that are doing better than them.
Oh, really?
Yes, I mean, the workers of the National Human Rights Commission are just salary earners. Many of them don't even understand what human rights are. They cannot educate Nigerians on it, so they are not doing much at all.
But do you think because it's affiliated to the federal government, it's weakened by the institutions?
Because if they are to do something, the first people they are to bring to book are their masters. Good. In Nigeria, politicians rank #1 among those who violate the rights of other Nigerians. It was on the news the other day that a member of the House of Representatives asked a Uber driver to help take his load into his car, and his driver said, "No, I've performed my duty, come and take your load." And he slapped the young man. Why should he do so? He was overbearing. So politicians do these things and then they go scot-free. So the national human rights is like the anti-graft agencies we have here and there established by the federal government. These anti-graft agencies like ICPC should tackle government officials first. They are the ones who commit the most financial crimes in Nigeria. Once they are not able to tackle their masters, they fail. They fail ab initio.
So, where do we go from here? I mean, you speak about the fact that these days the police are even the ones that are the culprits. The Nigerian judiciary are the ones that are even defending the rights of the elites much more than the common man. The Human Rights Commission isn't doing as much as you have stated. What about the civil society organizations, the ones that are led by individuals, corporate organizations, people who have seen that sometimes when people don't have the means and the wherewithal to go the whole hog in challenging some issues, they can step in. How much of that do you think is working? Do you think they are also bedeviled with the issues of funding, also bribery as well? Because again, you must be helping someone do something. You require some funding to also do that. Someone will say we languish into that hunger space if you don't have your integrity and if you're not resilient about what you want to do.
There are civil society organizations that try to enforce human rights are doing exceedingly well. Their major pitfall is financial constraints. There was a time in Enugu when HRVC almost completely stopped the Nigerian police from harassing keke drivers, and then some staff of the organization were volunteers, including me, worked around the clock, going to the police station, going to the prison to free inmates, to get bail free of charge for accused persons. But there is also a limit to what these organizations can do. One, the financial resources are not always there. At that time, the organization was powered mainly by monthly contributions made by members, and these members are volunteers. And then once in a while, a big shot is also involved in human rights violation. And then you take the matter to a point, and then you discover that the government agencies involved are not willing to cooperate because, I mean, no one wants to lose his job by trying to attack the Oga, in quotes. So that is really the problem. Otherwise, these organizations are the ones who even make it possible nowadays for Nigerians to have a breath of life. But now I would like to add, because a part of your question is, what can we do? What I think the government should do, first of all, is to empower Nigerians economically. The economy needs to be revamped. We need to have a robust economy where every Nigerian is able to earn a living, not just eat and wear clothes. We should be able to earn a living. Earning a living here means to be so comfortable that if someone violates your rights, you have all it takes to go to court without having to sacrifice your means of livelihood. Because the major reason why so many Nigerians sleep over their rights and then leave everything in the hands of God is because they do not have the means to execute the protection of their rights. So I think Nigeria federal government needs to make the economy better, and the governors of the 36 states also need to work harder, make the economy strong, provide jobs, create an enabling environment so that those Nigerians who are enterprising can establish businesses that will take care of their families and give them an extra income with which to protect their rights.
You said human rights is not doing well, but largely because it's affiliated to the government. Government pays the salaries. Do you think that in some ways that it should be independent? I mean, I'm trying to even think of an institution that is independent of the government.
Yes.
I was going to talk about INEC, but I also know that INEC is affiliated to the government, and it's, even though it's called Independent Electoral Commission, you still see that the president is the one that appoints, you know, the chairman of INEC. So I'm wondering, how do you think that human rights should be constituted, that it would be independent of the influence of government, so that they are able to carry out their rights properly? Because it's also maybe a deliberate thing that the government would not fund them properly to be able to carry out certain you know, things. So if we have a situation where it's a statutory that they have allocation XYZ for them, they're able to go whole hog. What kind of arrangement do you think that will be, and do you think it would be better off?
You see, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International are international human rights organizations. They are independent. There is nowhere in the world where a human rights organization is owned and funded by the government and they're able to make any impact. So I would advise the government to close down the National Human Rights Commission.
Close it.
Close it down, and then empower these individual human rights organizations. Give them annual subventions to help in their activities and not interfere with what they are doing. Provide pro bono lawyers for them. Pro bono lawyers. Lawyers that are paid by the government so that they can provide free legal service. So indigent Nigerians who are unable financially to hire lawyers on their own. If the federal government does this, I'll tell you, there will be a revolution in human rights observation in Nigeria.
All right, we have our correspondent at the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway talking about the Transekulu section of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway. There has just been an accident there involving 3 vehicles. One is a Toyota vehicle, the other one completely, you know, destroyed, and then the other one is a truck. Ogochukwu, thank you for joining us. Can you give us a detail of what's going on where you are? Hello, Ogochukwu.
Yeah, good morning, Charles.
Good morning to you. How do you do?
Fine.
All right, can you give us an update of what's going on at this Transekulu section of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway?
Yes, there's a burning vehicle, a Mercedes-Benz. It collided with a truck, Nigerian Brewery truck, carrying crates of drink. But the information I'm getting says that the accident actually claimed a man's life, and the family of the man that died had to set the truck ablaze. That is the information I have at hand. And the police are here to make sure that the situation is calm as I'm talking to you right now.
Okay, so when did this accident happen? Do you have an idea when it happened? Was it a night?
No, it's not. It didn't happen at night because the flame is still on. It's just now that they put on the fire.
Okay, they set the truck fire ablaze.
Yes. The eyewitness said out of anger, they had to set the truck ablaze because the truck claimed their members' lives.
Okay, I'm talking about the accident itself. The accident itself. When did it happen?
The accident happened this morning.
Okay. All right. I mean that access. That's the route I use coming to work every morning. And while I was actually passing that route, I saw that accident. The truck, and then there's a vehicle, and then there's another vehicle that had that particular accident. I understand that one of the vehicle is completely written off.
Yes.
Can you tell
It's
us?
a Mercedes Benz.
Okay, it's a
It's
message.
totally destroyed. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So, did you get more information about how the accident happened and what may have caused it? Because you cannot be running on that road with a high speed. Though it's an express, it's a highway, but then I mean, it's sad that the way and manner that the accident happened, it has completely
Hello.
destroyed that particular vehicle.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello, this is Charles. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you now.
What is the security situation right there now?
Yes, the police forces are here to make sure that people do not go, to make sure that people do not pass through that route.
Is it blocked totally? Is that particular axis blocked totally?
Not yet, because trucks are still passing, but they are making sure that they divert other vehicles to another road.
Okay. All right. So, has there been any specific accounts on the ground on how that particular accident happened?
Well, no account yet, but they said it was just the Mercedes Benz collided into the big truck and killed the man driving the Mercedes Benz. And when the family came in and they have taken the body away. They actually died at the spot.
Okay. So, what about the other vehicle, the red, I think Toyota? I understand that the vehicle also got some hits. Did anybody in that vehicle have any injuries, or have they been taken to the hospital?
Yes, they have been taken away to the hospital.
All right, Ugone, many thanks. Thank you so much. I appreciate your reporting.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, that was Ugone Onuoha, our reporter down the axis of the Trans-Ekulu, the Enugu Onitsha Expressway, the Trans-Ekulu axis of the Enugu Onitsha Expressway. And it's so unfortunate that accident happened. In fact, some 3 weeks back, as a matter of fact, there was also an accident that happened on that axis. It was also a truck and then a vehicle that was also captured. It's so unfortunate that the road is done. It's an express road, the federal government road. It's so smooth, but then it almost looks like when the road was bad, we didn't have these kinds of accidents. I'm just thinking, like, why are we having a good road with a situation of accident? I rarely haven't see accident of that magnitude when that particular road has not been fixed.
Was dilapidated?
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, what's going on? I know that it's supposed to be a double lane. The other side has been blocked. People no longer use the other side because, I mean, the federal government is going to fix it. It's still bad. So everyone is actually using one lane. But the lane is actually wide enough, But, you can imagine the situation there. What do you have to say?
A number of factors could dispose or predispose a vehicle to have an accident. One could be the human element, the mental condition of the driver, Did he sleep very well the previous night? Questions we have to ask. Did he sleep very well? Was he under the influence of alcohol?
Yeah, because that was very, very early. It was very
Did
early.
he quarrel with his wife the previous night or very early as he was leaving and still had the anger in him? I mean, children's school fees have not been paid. The Gary bag is getting low, and the rice bag has finished. And then there isn't food in the house, and then the children are asking for work fee, money for work fee, and all that. And the man is worried while he was driving, and so couldn't concentrate on his steering wheel. What about visibility? Was the visibility
Good
enough? We understand that just like we said, that the road is well tarred. Was he overspeeding? I mean, all of this could account for why the accident occurred.
The car, the Mercedes, was completely written off.
Damage, you see?
Completely. When I mean completely, it looks like as soon as he hit the truck, another vehicle hit it from the back, and that was the other Toyota that hit it. So you could imagine the stench of the folding, that happened. It's just so sad, really. I mean, an express road is not an invitation for car racing. That's actually what I see in this part of the world. When the road is done, the next thing is trying to
overspeeding,
to misuse it. It's so sad. Anyways, back to our discussion regarding human rights. In general terms, really, as Nigerians, we are not a people who are used to defending our rights. Well, when we tend to take everything that is thrown at us. We tried to do a protest some time back. We saw, the 2020 NSAS protest.
Yeah.
We saw the end hunger and bad governance just few days back. But I mean, it does look like in Nigeria, protest really doesn't work. I mean, protest is a way of trying to call attention of government to your plight. But it does look like those things don't work. What really works in Nigeria?
A fundamental factor responsible for Nigerians not being predisposed to protest is the fact that their country doesn't love them, and Nigerians are giving that hatred back to the country. In a country where the government spends the resources to the benefit of the citizens, there is love, and the tendency is that the citizens want to reciprocate this love. So if there is an issue in the country, everybody will come out to protest. Not because they hate the government, because they want to correct the government. That is the purpose of the protest. And individuals will be willing to die to get things going, to get things to normalize in the country. But I can assure you that no Nigerian would like to die for Nigeria. Why die for Nigeria anyway? When you could do something better for yourself. So that is a major reason why you don't see such protests in Nigeria. You discover that most of the protests we had were simply carnivals. It's organized by few Nigerians who had money, and people come out, dance, and eat the food prepared for them, drink on the road. That is not what a protest should be like. So when it comes to this wide, violent protest that can really turn things around, the first thing the Nigerian remembers is my life. What do I gain if I die for the country? Who takes care of my kids if I am no longer there? Who is Nigeria that will remember that I died for her? In fact, there is no such entity called Nigeria as far as Nigerians are concerned. Nigerians are on their own.
How does that change? How do you think the government would posture in order for people to start believing in the cause of Nigeria?
I'd like to tell you something. In the early 80s, I was in the primary school, and I had an uncle who was at the University of Nigeria. And then he was a young man in his early 20s, and we visited him on the campus. He would take us to the campus cafeteria and point at the chicken and say, tell us we should take the ones we wanted. And then back in his hostel, the campus laundry woman left a written note because she found 20 naira in his trouser pocket. So there were laundry men and women who washed clothes for students. And the man called the woman and said, I say, whenever you see this kind of thing, take it for yourself, for your effort. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying, what I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
Good. So there was a time when the federal government spent money. Students were treated like kings. People washed their clothes in the campus, ironed it for them. Special food was prepared in the cafeteria for them to eat. They were not buying this food. The government was serving the students, trying to show them what they would do in future for the people when they eventually hold important positions in society. They were to give that same service to the people. Now, while I was growing up, I attended a primary school in Enugu here, and there was a dispensary clinic inside that primary school, a dispensary clinic. If a child was running a fever, the teacher would write a note and give to the what we call monitor. The monitor would take the child to the clinic. There were doctors and nurses there who attend to the child, sometimes give drugs. And then parents outside the school, parents whose children were not there, would bring in their children to the clinic to receive medical service free of charge and take drugs home free of charge. Then I used to read every time at the Enugu State Library. And that library had this annex at New Market where we now have Federal Road Safety Commission base. And that annex sold books to students, books that were subsidized. Once you showed your ID card, I used to go there and I would receive exercise books and long notes. And then a history textbook that was selling 300 naira in the market, I bought it 440 naira because the government has subsidized the cost so it to be cheaper so the students could afford to buy it. I used to go to GOPD, it's called General Outpatient Department, when UNTH was still at Enugu here before they relocated to Itukoza. With your ID card at GOPD, the doctor will examine you, recommend drugs, and then I'll take the prescription to the pharmacy. And workers working there, smiling, asking you, how is school? Will be so happy to give you the drugs free of charge. What happened to those facilities? They're no longer there today. They're no longer there today. Okay, what happened to the Public Works Department, PWD, a department of the Ministry of Works that was responsible in the past for maintaining roads? Road maintenance is not the direct responsibility of the governor. The governor should be an overseeing figure. There are departments in charge of this, just provide money for them. But it is no longer done like that nowadays. If there are potholes on our roads, a contractor will go to the governor and have the contract given so that it will be inflated and he will make money. But there was a department that had money assigned to it in the budget so that they will be going around and see potholes and then close these potholes on time before it deteriorated. So we had a noble administration in Nigeria in the past. We had a government that we can say was both responsible and responsive. Unfortunately, we no longer have that kind of government today. So the government should begin to love the citizens. Love the citizens. There are things the government can do and they know it. And the citizens will reciprocate this love and everyone will benefit from it.
Let's leave it there. This is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's been one interesting discussions we've had regarding human rights and national cohesion. We have had the opportunity to have with us Ogochukwu Onuoha, human rights crusader, education and research historian. I want to say a very big thank you so much for coming. We truly appreciate your insight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.